So if everybody can add that cross-council meeting, and I'll just kind of go over that a little bit. We need to approve the agenda. Anybody want to make a motion?
I motion things for me.
I second. And then approval of minutes for September.
Oh, I did not get that out, I apologize.
That's okay. I think everybody got them on email. Are you guys on my email? Give me your email. I'm sorry. Give me your emails.
Okay, so mine is Caroline.
Is that, is that something that we want?
Don't they get full?
The student stuff.
Okay, you know what?
So if they could.
When it's
maybe-
over,
Like, write it?
yeah. Why don't you write it? Both of you on here. Does anybody want to make a motion for the minutes from September? Did anybody have any questions? I second. Any opposed? All in favor? Okay, principals update?
Sure. All right, so lots going on actually. Of some items of interest, academically we have started an extended learning program, and I'm really excited about this because what it is basically, instead of waiting until what we call autopsy data, so the semester's over and grades are finalized, what teachers have done using 6-week progress report is provided work for students who are in tutorial sessions as we speak. So the hope is to get those kids caught up, to get them ahead maybe, so they can stay on track, graduate, and also obviously pass this semester. So I'm really excited about it. This Lloyd has been doing that, and our graduation coach, and has done a great job. Volleyball team made it to state. Unfortunately lost in the first round, but fought hard, was very competitive, drove all the way down to Camden, which is like very close to the end of the earth, and did a great job. We're very proud of them on the athletic side. Football is about to finish up, and girls and boys cross country run region. We've got some runners that are absolutely outstanding, so some of them are here. So we're excited about their opportunities to make it further, and then believe it or not, winter sports, basketball, wrestling, and corner. One of the things that came up last time was about the number of students that we're going to be allowed to accept from outside of our attendance zone. So I talked to Ingrid Huff, who is the director of something or other, but basically she's the one who provides us these numbers. Of course, part of it is that the district is in the middle of redistricting, which does not impact us, but it may impact magnet students and availability and things like that. All that to say, she should be able to give us a number by the end of this month. So right about Halloween, I'll be following up with her so we can get a definitive number on how many students we can accept next year. I'm also glad to report that 100% of our students, according to the illustrious Mr. Blackwell, have turned in their affidavits of residency. So we have a piece of paper on file for all of our students saying they live where they're supposed to live. And I think that's really about it. There's a lot going on. We had our Chick-fil-A Leadership Academy kids working hard. They were out there today thanking our bus drivers for Bus Driver Appreciation Week. So 2 of them are here again, so thank you for doing that. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. Is there any questions or anything you wanted to ask about that I forgot?
When did the grades come out?
Well, we did 6 weeks progress. We do a progress report every 6 weeks.
Okay, so,
So we did one, last one was about 3 weeks ago.
okay,
So right about before Thanksgiving should be the next one. Those are just progress reports, and then of course final grades, we'll have final exams at the end of the semester, the last 4 days, and then those grades will be reported as soon as we get back. But if you have Home Access Center, you should be able to see your students' grades online.
And the students, you see their own.
They have Student Access Center this year.
so they see, we get 6-week progress reports. Like, I guess I'm confused because Ridgeview does 9-week report cards. We don't do that here. We just do 6-week. And I should know that since I'm on the 2nd year, but. And then I have another question.
Did we answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
My other question is, why do we, and is it all of Fulton County, going the 100-point system when GPA, I mean, I
So
have to
I-
say that I have had 50 emails between me and Sally Page
Yeah, I
and
don't
Wendy
know why.
Williams' college, and nobody can figure out what her
Well,
GPA is.
No, so I don't know why we do that. And actually, I had a lot of
I'm thinking
conversations last year when I was new to Fulton, because a lot of other districts use a 4.0 scale, which, if we're going to be serious about college and career readiness, we should speak the same language as college and career. The only answer I've ever gotten is that's the way we do it. And I brought it up with everybody, and nobody seems inclined to change it. I think it's confusing. I think that then you start talking about weighted versus unweighted GPA, and that throws it for a loop as well. So the short answer is, I don't know.
So-
Unless somebody has some of our.
When you're dealing with a child like mine who needs some motivation, and her college coach says, okay, let's get your GPA to this year, and I go, I don't know how to figure out what you need to be making to get there, because we can't seem to figure out, everybody I ask is giving me a different answer.
I agree. It is on Georgia 411, right? They're, the counselors here. It is, their weighted and unweighted GPA should be on Georgia 411.
Okay.
But, Mr. Blackwell, unless you have something to add, the short answer is that's the way we do it.
All of Fulton County, or just our district?
All of Fulton County.
Huh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question. In my household, does it matter, or how does it calculate, let's say for instance, if you have an IB student and they have all A's, as opposed to a student who's just, I guess, on a regular track, and they have all A's?
Right.
Or
So
their
that,
grade point average is higher, I guess,
right.
than the person that's in IB, but yet they receive.
No, so if you're taking an IB or AP course, there are 7 quality points that are added to the grade. So a 9B in an IB course, and you guys correct me if I say something wrong, becomes a 97. And that's the weighted GPA. Now, where people get confused is Hope Scholarship and some colleges and some scholarships take those quality points off. Go ahead.
So when it comes to Hope, they add in for the honors courses, half one.
That's true. Half a point in the 4-point scale.
Yes.
Right.
So the 3.
See how true that is?
The 3.0.
That's amazing that,
Listen, I'm pushing.
3.0
I
would
think
be
it's-
in
I'll say it on camera.
AP biology becomes a 3.5. 4.
Not if you get an A though, you don't get the 0.5.
Right, if you, thank you for the attention. Yes.
I understand.
So you can't.
Do you really?
No.
Yeah, it is.
and by the time you figure it out, they'll be gone.
It quickly gets complicated.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, then I don't know that we need to make up out of district, because I think you answered that question. This is on the agenda.
Okay, well, I can tell you what Mr. Blackwell and I have kind of dug up. Actually, it's
Okay.
Mr. Blackwell, I'm not going to take credit. What he dug up and emailed to me. We accepted about 30 magnet students. Remember that the number was set higher, but then the assumption was that the central office was going to move in down the
Right.
street, and that the faculty and staff that work there may want to put their students here. But we accepted 30 magnet students outside of our attendance zone. In addition to those 30, correct, there was a number who were special ed hardships, employees, some other kind of hardship that were placed here by the district. So all in all, we're looking at what was total accepted OP, would you say, early 40s, 41, 42? Yeah, so that's about that. I mean, we had set aside 50, and that's why I'm very interested in the number that we're going to get from Ms. Huff at the end of this month.
Okay,
So then if you do the math after that, minus the about 300 kids who came from Ridgeview,
right.
everyone else came from somewhere else in Georgia, a private school.
But they were all in district kids. Okay. All right, magnet program application.
Well, Dr. Kopkas, you might want to start out a little bit. More than anything, I guess what we would want the council to be aware of is after we get the information from Ms. Huff, who does student placement, she'll let us know the number of students that we can consider accepting into the magnet program. Remember, that's always a number of out of attendance zone students. There are other kids here at Riverwood who are doing the magnet program or seeking that seal because it is just a kind of an added distinction, and they live in our attendance zone anyway. But So once she gives us that number of how many students we can accept out of attendance zone, then we'll put up our application. And the application usually is made available sometime in November and needs to be returned. We typically say, although last year was a little different, I think, because of snowpocalypse and, we spent some nights here. We typically say at the end of January. Dr. Kopkis and Ms. Garber, who helps with some of the magnet program administration things, she's great, you all know her, have made a couple of adjustments to, or anticipated adjustments to part of the application. You want to tell them a little bit about that? It was a part of it last year, and you looked at some things that you wanted to kind of tweak.
Yeah, sure. So we have those students who will be applying to the magnet program who are coming from Ridgeview, who are in the attendance zone. We'll have different categories set up. The first category will be those who are coming from Ridgeview, who are in the attendance zone, or who have siblings, or various other things that we looked at under our, what last year was called Process A. There will be another box under that particular category that opens up students who are going to be applying into a pre-diploma program. We're going to be looking at how those students are coming into, or have the potential to come into the diploma program as juniors and seniors. And in addition to the standard magnet application, which requires an essay and transcripts, we have some criteria that will be established. And the way to look at that is look at basically the profile of our IB class and said, all right, this is the level of student and rigor that we want to attract in this program, so on and so forth. Below that, in a different category, what last year was referred to as Process B, will be for those students who are interested in coming to the school as magnet students from out of the attendance zone. And so we'll first look at the Fulton County residents, and if that number, based on what the county gives us, fills up, then that fills up. If there happen to be a few extra spots, then if someone, because last year as we looked at this, and we looked at our top 10, I think, and forgive me if I'm slightly off on this, but I think 7 of our top 10 last year were out of the attendance zone. And so trying to keep those people out of the building didn't seem like it was in the best interest of the school if we're looking to show results and high test scores and things like that. So we want to continue to attract top students, but we want the first option to go to those who are still in Fulton County. If that doesn't fill up, then we have in the past had a number of very high quality students coming from Dunwoody, coming from places nearby in Cobb, that kind of thing. So that's how that Process B will look, and they have to meet that criteria. Yes?
I'm a little confused because attendance zone, to me, the attendance zone would be within the school district. And then there's Fulton County, and then there's outside of the county. So are we talking about school district or Fulton County? When
See,
you're
but
talking
that's
about
where it gets
Process
tricky,
A?
is when we start using the word district. That's where people get confused.
School zone versus Fulton County.
Correct. So what our attendance zone, of course, is Fulton County School District, but our attendance zone is really just the little boundaries that are drawn. It's basically the zip code 30328 and a couple little nooks and crannies here and there and blah, blah, blah. And what we're looking for as we broaden out, most of our magnet kids come to us from within the school district, but not from within our school attendance zone.
Got it.
So, like kids from Westlake, Banneker, Langston Hughes, Alpharetta, Northview, those are all those magnet buses that trickle in. So they still reside in Fulton County, just not in our little 30328.
Right.
And you know, that's not precise, it might be 2 zip codes. And then we've got a couple of kids still here who, you know, should attend a school in Cobb County or should attend a school in DeKalb. The only place we get hung up, and I will say this because we want to make sure that everyone is clear on this, we cannot accept a student who lives in Atlanta Public Schools. We don't have a memorandum of understanding with Atlanta Public Schools. We do with Cobb, we do with DeKalb, we do with many other places, but Atlanta Public Schools will not grant us a memorandum of understanding. In fact, they've sued us in the past, and they won. So we can't have anyone, and so you'll see that will be a specific question. We're always trying to figure out the best way to get that information, because some people don't know. So you'll see we're going to add a question on the application that says, which high school would you attend if you know, what high school would you attend by where you live if you weren't going to come to Riverwood? And so we're trying to see if any of them might be an APS school. So does that help, Ms. Clancy?
The other thing that I learned last year is we have to get on top of it because a lot of parents are making decisions earlier. Private schools are asking earlier and earlier. We are revamping some of our materials. They're working on a new brochure that's kind of a little more professional and highlights us. We've updated our school profile. We are doing a better job planning our prospective. So, you know, we're trying to do a better job marketing. And we're also, like Mr. Blackwell said, we want to get that application up and out as soon as possible because parents do have to make these decisions.
And we're trying, I do tours at Ridgeview, and we're trying to do a better job of telling the people who are coming into Ridgeview from out of district that it's not a guarantee that they will continue on at Riverwood. That it's not just a, you know, you're in.
Right.
And one of the big changes from last year's application to this year's is that addition of the pre-diploma program. That was not something that was at all part of last year's.
So I had a question. So the pre-diploma program, that's for people who aren't here at all, who would come in just for junior, senior year?
No, they would, any eighth grader who is potentially interested in pursuing IB diploma program, they'll come in, they'll be automatically middle years program.
Right.
And anyone who is potentially interested in pursuing the diploma program will be pursuing this course of study in the 9th and 10th grade to put them in a position
Oh, okay.
to be successful at earning that
Gotcha.
diploma.
And the reason we did that is because, and I won't get too much lost in the weeds, is we have to look at how we're scoping and sequencing most of our science classes to make sure that the kids get what is required, basically time-wise, from the IB, so that they're eligible to, not eligible, that they're on track to get into the diploma program. Does that help?
Well, yeah, and I will go into the weeds a little bit here, but if you, because it does concern some of what the council does, we currently have our waiver for, or from physical science, if they're doing higher level, at this point, higher level chemistry, and we're going to be doing something with higher level biology. And so what that means is our students who need to fulfill the IB science requirement need to be in that room with a higher level subject for 2 years and can't do that if they also have to take the physics and physical science. So the way we're altering the scope and sequence is to satisfy the graduation requirement now by putting them on path to do that by the end of sophomore year, while also giving them the requisite knowledge in physics in particular, because we thought that it's important for kids on college applications to still have the physics. But also another problem that we discovered was if a student wanted to take IB physics, that student had no physics going into the IB course. Whereas in chemistry or bio or whatever, there was at least some awareness of what was going on in those disciplines, but for physics that wasn't the case. And it disadvantaged so many of our students who would have wanted to pursue physics.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then we'll have, you know, PDP sections of science and math, that kind of thing, so that we
people try to get the IB diploma and how many people succeed?
Well, that varies from year to year. I recently looked at a 10-year period, and the results going back 10 years range anywhere from 63% to 100%. Last year we were at 74, the year before we were at 82, 2004 we were at 63, and 2005 we were at 64. So that's typically where we've been in the mid-80s, I guess, is an average. And we have this year 44 diploma seniors, 43 diploma juniors, which means we've got 87 full diploma candidates. And then we have, with that number, 271 students involved with a diploma program course in some form or fashion, which is, I think, 34% of the junior-senior population. So it's a nice portion of
Yeah.
the junior-senior class, and I think, if my math was correct, it's 17% of the entire student body is somehow involved with the DP program.
That's great. And it sounds good.
Well, you know, we're working, and this is probably where we're also going to see a lot of growth in the DP program is with these core students. Those students may not taking the whole DP, but again, the idea with the pre-DP program is setting them up to do well, to get those results that we want to see, get those pass rates back up to the high 80s.
Okay.
But also grow the program in that way, and the students who then by the end of 10th grade year say, oh, the full diploma is not for me, will then hopefully also choose lots of courses. Get some of our numbers out.
Should we mention career certificate?
I think that's very premature at this, juncture, but that's long range.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Any other questions? All right. We're not going to do safety committee update because we haven't gotten that far yet. We are in the process of sending out emails for those who had tried to, who went out for governance, I guess, and didn't get elected, to see if they'd be interested in helping out. But really, I think the goal of the safety committee is to stay on top of it and to see if there's any areas that we need improvement and to support the staff in anything they need and to be a little more involved. I don't think they ever really got off the ground last year.
Ms. Williams and I exchanged emails. She asked for the contact information for those people like my boss and people in Fulton County Schools Police, just who to reach out to when it comes to doing maybe another safety walk, communicating about safety issues at Riverwood. So I've shared as many of those names as I can think of.
Okay.
How many people do we have on the safety committee from government council?
Well, it's just me, and it'd be nice if we could get one other person to help out, because then the rest of them will be, I think Crystal said for ad hoc committees, it has to be at least one. And then the rest can be not on the governance council.
Okay.
So if anybody else is interested, I know you guys are busy. As y'all were on everything in the beginning. But if anybody else is interested, just let me know. Because the more help we can get, the better. Request for flexibility update.
Okay, you should have copies of our RFFs and the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. You know, we had to go through a little bit of this process. We had talked about a history one, and after a lot of conversations, we decided that some of the things we want to do to strengthen our history curriculum, particularly world history and geography, really don't require a request for flexibility. So these are the two that we have submitted for consideration. These went to Crystal, and then they also went to my boss, Dr. Makaba. So we know that the first one, if we're on the same order, if you look at brief description of the content, an applied problem-solving course for a fraction of the 9th grade population that strategically builds 7th and 8th grade mathematics concepts and eventually produce coordinate algebra. So what that means is basically for all of our 9th graders coming in, they start at coordinate algebra. And what we're asking for is a 4-credit course that will count, that they can take to build them up to get ready for coordinate algebra, instead of just putting them in there. 150 years ago, we used to have a course like that, but with the changes in curriculum, it went away. But what we talked about in our last meeting is there is really nothing to get those kids, especially if they're coming from a private school or a different middle school, to get them ready for that coordinate algebra. So that is one of our requests for flexibility. The other one,
So that, you mean like a course like back in the day when it's like pre-algebra and then
yes,
algebra?
ma'am, that's right, yep, yep. I think some places call it integrated math, or then that gets
Like
confused.
what was so.
Sure.
It was originally
Correct.
last time.
The next one was a conversation we also had, again relating to math, about for those kids who just want to take regular old B-flat calculus. There really isn't anything for them here. We have, of course, our IB Math SL, we have AP Calc, but we would like to just go ahead and do a basic calculus course. So it gives kids a rigorous option for the 4th math that maybe is not an IB or AP course. And that is what the second RFF is for. So, and again, this builds on the discussions we had at our last meeting over in the guidance counseling office. So it's kind of self-explanatory, I think. Any questions or?
Okay, so I kind of want to go over the deadlines.
Okay.
Have we heard back?
We have not.
Okay.
The deadline to submit this for second consideration was October 16th, which we met. I know that there is a committee from the cabinet who reviews these and then lets us know, go forward with it, so we do the full application. And then I believe those are due sometime in December. I wish Crystal was here.
Well, I went over the deadline, wrote it down.
Okay,
November
good.
12th is the last day to vote to post them. We have to post these
Okay.
and for public comment. And we need
Do we
two,
post this or do we post the application?
I think the application.
Okay, gotcha.
And we need 2/3 vote prior to November 12th. So it depends on when we can get the information back. When is our next meeting? November?
I think the 11th,
So,
November 11th at 4 o'clock.
okay, so ideally, at our next meeting, we can vote for these. And then the 13th is the last day to post it. So this will be covered by our meeting, which is good.
Gotcha.
And then deadline to approve RFF, no, that's the 2/3 vote, I'm sorry. Deadline to approve RFFs is 2/3 vote December 18th.
So any questions, I guess, about what we're proposing here? What about you guys? You lived this. Any thoughts?
I think that, I mean, specifically the calculus is very relevant to us. I think it would be very helpful and utilized in school. So,
It was a very successful course when we last had it. I used to teach it.
Are they good? No bias there.
Well, you guys will need to encourage everybody to comment, because it sounds like it's definitely needed.
With scheduling and stuff last year, there were a lot of people wondering, why don't we have a regular calculus
Right,
class?
right, that's where the same is generated.
And that's going to be the key to getting it approved, is public comment. Okay, renovation expansion update. The only, I mean, we're kind of on track. I talked to Patrick Burke, and design competition kicks off at the end of the month after board approves the education specs. So it's the same thing that whenever, I don't know if y'all remember, but I guess I'm wondering, and then once that happens, they'll put it out to bid, the architects will, here it is. October design competition parameters, November, December design competition period, December board awards designer. Didn't we have a committee that last year that was working on this?
We did. We did. We had a committee that was, some of the veterans here, we had a committee that was working with Patrick Burke. Mr. Pitkey was involved and some others. It really was, I don't know how much planning actually went on because we're still so far, I mean, from really getting involved in this process. But they were involved with some of the pre-design work that we did in the spring. And they came to some of the meetings as well, so that was about it.
So I guess my question is, I mean, we're still on track for a phase 1, maybe phase 2. I mean, they don't really know. It doesn't sound like. So my question is, when do we get involved? I mean, to me, it's silly to understand that we've got to go to school here and get stuff done, but I guess being on this and having a kid who cheers for Junior Raiders, and we've been to all the schools, it's amazing what's out there and what crap we have here.
Oh, yeah.
It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who can answer your question that you could mind?
So here's what they're going to say, because I've asked this question. They're going to say that really everything is kind of on hold until the design committee awards it to somebody, because then the conversations are, is it a renovation or is it a rebuild? If it's a rebuild, the conversation changes because then you get into funding. And that is probably not until we have the next philosophy. So, you know, I do know that what we talked about last summer with the design team is a lot of the community input comes in when there's actually the development of a plan. But right now, last I heard, and I met with the gentleman a couple weeks ago to talk about another project, and this came up, is we're at least 2 years from you to really have a plan. So it's not quick.
Right, and we're supposed to be on schedule for fall of 2017.
That's if it's a renovation.
But if it's SPOS and it pushes back to.
When is the next
I
SPOS?
don't remember. The current SPOS right now has 33 million, no, 17 million, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. It has money set aside for a renovation.
Right.
And if that is the plan the design committee comes back with, then that is the 2017 deadline. I don't remember when the next SPOS is. We probably look it up.
Has there been, and I think we talked about this, has there been an instance when a school went through the same thing and they went ahead and did a rebuild based on the fact that they could take money from the next SPOS? I mean, it doesn't make sense to do a renovation,
No.
then a rebuild. That's a waste.
To Westlake.
Westlake?
Westlake just set a precedent of, they went through a remodeling, proved to be too costly for the same reasons here. The classrooms are undersized to spec, so you've got to move walls, which you can't move. And that's the big issue, is you're going to have to move walls. And unless you get double-sized classrooms, might not be 2 classrooms into 1. Alternative, it's not a viable one, I don't think.
And they ended up building a new school.
They built a new school with and they took out from what I remember, they took out a loan, just a normal bond issue, for building the new school. And they paid off the bond when the next SPOS passed. But they issued a bond because they couldn't guarantee it would pass the SPOS. But when it did, they had it in the SPOS that they would pay off the bond.
Okay.
So the precedent has been set.
Okay, anybody else have anything else to add? And then,
Is that something that we could look into, or is it that, I mean?
well, it sounds like right now there's nothing for us to do until,
Yeah, I think the sense that I get is they're waiting to see what the design team comes back with. They're kind of waiting to see, do the architects, the professionals say, you know, we just can't put lipstick on a pig anymore, we've got to go start from scratch? Or is it, you know, we can make it better with the renovation that's in the current SPOS? And I think that's what yes ma'am, I think the powers that be are kind of waiting to see what comes back.
and that'll be November, December.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That'll be the design competition period, so it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. And then cross-council meeting, which we added to the agenda, we kind of already went over that. That'll be where we get information on CFA money. And they're doing it as cross-council meetings, so we can all share ideas and see what everybody else is doing. Yeah. And I'll send you guys the link. Does anybody have anything else?
Public comment.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, I've got actually 4 things. Would love to see a communication committee, even if you just announce the meeting the week before or the week of it and said what the agenda is, so people would know you'll have a meeting and you come. As far as the magnet program, y'all should be aware of the 2014-2015 Fulton County Handbook. There are 4 magnet schools, Westlake, Tri-Cities, Riverwood, and North Springs, and we're known for international studies. So there's a specific area of focus we're supposed to have, and that's how we would bring children in. They're supposed to be for international studies only, would be why they would be applying for the magnet program, so our purpose should be around that. As far as the IB program goes, I mean, I've got children, some that are in it, some that are not in it, but I would love to, and it maybe next year, the year after that, when I'm not here, but at some point, there's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort that is thrown at the IB program. And at some point, it's either going to be very successful or it's not. And if it's not, at some point, because I hear about 40, 50 kids in it every year, and I don't ever heard more than that. I know the best effort is right now, what y'all are pushing forward. But if y'all decide at some point in the next year or two and talk to grads that graduated with a full degree and see, because I'm hearing very mixed reviews after the fact. If the program, the time and money and effort that's put into that, I'm wondering if, as a school and as taxpayers of children, if the program is not going to be hugely successful and available to everybody, maybe take that money and look at the middle child here, the middle student here that needs the most amount of support. I don't know, some will prevent the most bang for our buck for it. Just pay for that. Number 4, SPOS. We're almost having a Groundhog Day here, and I know that y'all don't know this because y'all are new into it, but it would be great if there was a committee put together now that actually had parents involved, because Gail Dean, and there were hours spent by the governments last year discussing what could be done, when could be done, how could be done, renovation versus rebuild, exactly what Dr. Nika just brought up as far as the fact of what can be done with the building, because you can't there's no amount of lipstick that's going to get y'all the kind of facility that we deserve and that we should have here. And I think until you get parents behind it or a specific committee that has the updates, I don't think you're going to get that, because we don't even have consistency at times right now for Wi-Fi in the building. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. And that's not fair to our students. And if y'all don't do something about it right now, you won't have something in 2 years. It won't affect my children, but it certainly will affect a lot of the other people's children that are here. And I think it's the right thing to do for the community. Because we all voted for SPOS thinking we would have something amazing 3 years ago. And here we are sitting, maybe talking about something 2 more years from now. And that's not right. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, on the building, you guys might want to contact Ron Tesh. When he was here as principal, he's the one who, if you remember who he is, he was the guy who was here for a few months before our lovely leader now. And he was, just amazing to step into it. But he was the guy who got all this huge renovation started, okay? He did the same thing at Milton. He talked about how they were going to do a renovation at Milton, and he kind of got them to do a renovation on steroids. So I don't know, maybe y'all can buy him a lunch. I talked to him, urging him to become a consultant for schools, but I understand he's principal for right now. The other thing is you stole my middle kid thing. I have a lovely average student who's going to rock in the adult world. But unfortunately, in 9th and 10th grade, these middle kids get really lost. And I was up here a lot with you last year because my kid was lost. And I would really like to see, when y'all are looking at, for these special programs for these 9th and 10th graders, something to really support these kids that are in the middle. So, not the kids that are, needing remedial help, not the kids who are going to be in your pre-IB program, but those kids in the middle, maybe, try to cluster them together or give them some more support, because those are the ones who could be the rock star later on if they just got a little attention. And thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second it.
Any opposed? All in favor?